Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions. Thank you again for our time together. Tonight, we're back into our series on prophecy as I begin to talk to you about this present age and the last days. We'll get into all kinds of great studies on what God says. Right now, let's come back to the book of 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 8. Here's a verse that's always ignored, it seems. I want men everywhere. Now, I want men everywhere. Doesn't matter where you're at. To lift up holy hands in prayer. Guys, you can't sit there with your hands in your pockets. God says, I want men to lift up their hands in prayer. Now, guys, I'm going to walk slowly through this. If you're not a person who raises your hands, forgive me, you need to get over it. Well, I'm not Pentecostal. This has nothing to do with being Pentecostal. He said, I want men everywhere to lift up hands. To lift up hands, holy hands, in prayer. Gentlemen, right now you should just, as soon as we finish, you should stand up and lift up holy hands to God and begin to pray. Without anger or disputing. Without anger or disputing. Now, if there was ever a man that had to deal with anger issues and arguing issues, it would have been the Apostle Paul. He was a man, the Bible said, who breathed out violence prior to his salvation. But as we trace his life, we begin to see more and more the disputing leaves him. And now anger leaves him. And finally we get to him being beaten by a mob in the temple courts at Acts 23. And he doesn't even fight back and doesn't argue. He's not shouting at anybody. And you know, when I read that, I thought, Lord, I got a long ways to go. When you begin to read how all the anger and the fight was out of the Apostle Paul, this man who at one time had breathed out violence, and now being beaten, he doesn't get up and argue with anybody. And I taught you in the services in Acts that when you stay in control, you are in control. But I think there's something even more basic here. Every one of us, gentlemen, deals with anger issues. I don't know a guy who doesn't. Maybe anger and testosterone go together. I don't know. You talk to yourself, I don't have an anger issue. Let's talk to your wife. Gentlemen, I think all of us need to just sit down and recognize we got some good works for God to perfect within us. And one of those things God needs to mature and perfect within us is our attitudes. We need to get the anger and the disputing out of our hearts. We don't need to argue about things, and we don't need to get angry every day we sit in traffic. We just need to learn to live our lives in more peace. So, gentlemen, lift up holy hands to the Lord in prayer. And while you got those hands up praying, say, Lord, would you help me with the anger and the arguing issues in my life? I want to be like Paul. I want my spirit to be sweet in Jesus' name.